Grit for the Day. Lived experience from influencers who overcome. With CEO and founder, Thomas Lee Johnson.
My son was born 2 months premature. It was 3 pounds, 13 ounces when he was born. And things were, they were scary. Although many children survive being premature, even more premature. I actually even have a godson who was half that size and born a whole another 4 to 6 weeks prior to that and is thriving. So again, he was also someone whose birth gave me encouragement that, hey, he made it, he turned out okay. He was in a much more delicate situation than my son. But here we are 2 years later, and almost, 3 years later from when we found out he was even on his way. And seems like it was just yesterday, but it's been a long journey. But it was very, very trying. It'll challenge your marriage. It'll challenge your faith, your attitude, your how well you stay encouraged and supportive of your wife, although you got your own feelings. And
Welcome to Grit for the Day. This is your host, Thomas Lee TJ Johnson. With me today is actor, educator, activist, and entrepreneur, Lamman Rucker. Lamman Rucker currently stars in BET Plus series Black Hamptons. You would also see him on Queen Sugar on the Oprah Winfrey Network. He also collaborated with Paula Patton in Sacrifice on BET Plus. You would also know him from the Greenleaf, the Oprah Winfrey Network hit show Greenleaf as Jacob Greenleaf. I could go on. His resume is extensive. He's been acting and working as an activist and entrepreneur now for the last 2 decades. He is a marvelous human being, and I get to call him friend. So, Lamman, welcome to Grit for the Day.
I appreciate you, my brother. Glad to be here.
Excellent. So, today's episode is Grit to be Born. And I think you have a really interesting story about how your son came to be in your family.
Yeah, I do. And you've been a part of this, not only this conversation, but you were a part of that journey from the beginning. So you have you have your own perspective on it. And so my son's journey here was linked to myself, at least, to say I don't always think there's much support, especially not much emotional or even spiritual support for the men and for the fathers through this process. So I think it's even tougher for us.
Yes.
In the sense, even though it's not our bodies,
right.
Our bodies still are responding, our emotions, our spirit, everything is still so connected, not only to the child who is also a part of us and also stems from us.
Yes.
Right? With this woman that you're connected to and devoted to, everything that she's going through impacts you too.
Awesome. What you mentioned, the support that you and I both agree is lacking for men who have, infants in the NICU, or who have fertility issues, which is my story, which I'll tell in just a moment. If you could do anything and or suggest anything to men who find themselves in the NICU, or maybe their brother or uncle or friend is in the NICU, what would you suggest to them about just that scenario, and what got you through? How did you overcome?
Really, it was my relationships with other men who understood, who had been through the journey. it's also speaking up for yourself and sometimes speaking up for other men. For example, I'll never forget being asked for feedback on, they probably meant more about the quality of care that we were getting, right? And I'm sure most men, and if they got something to say, they're like, yeah, I don't appreciate the way you're treating my wife, or they keep doing this, or they keep poking her with this, or feeding her this, or waking her up in the middle of the night to test this or that. But what I actually had to say was more connected to what I thought the entire environment lacked with regard to its inclusion of men and its inclusion of the father and its support for men and fathers. For example, one what I thought was obvious is that all of the photos around the entire mother-baby, ward and throughout the NICU, if they weren't just of a baby, it was only, like I said, a mother and the baby. Only one parent. Okay, so even if it's the daddy, it was only one parent and the little baby elephant, right? Something, a little baby deer or a little baby, lion or something. So I'm like, where's the daddy? Like, why is throughout this entire ward of the hospital, and I don't know if it's subconscious, and I get being pro mother and child, nothing wrong with that, of course, absolutely not. But there's also something about that I think is disjointed because it literally, almost seemingly intentionally, removes the father from the image, from the equation, from the process of care, from the communication. Half the time, when they're talking to you about something, they're only talking to you about something that is really, that they've already told her first, as opposed to it being them talking to you together. They're talking to you as if you're just as qualified to make decisions so sometimes it's, I didn't really feel like people were dismissive toward me, but I've definitely heard stories of men feeling like, wait a minute, hello, I'm standing right here, you're talking to her, but you're not talking to us, So what's helpful is to talk to other men who have been through this. How did they navigate? How did they advocate for themselves? How did they speak up? How did they make sure that they inserted themselves in certain ways? Not just were assertive, but inserted themselves to say, hey, if you're going to do something with her or to her, I'm coming with you. If there's something that's going to happen with her, I would, please talk to me and let me know what that is as well. They not have to ask for my permission, but talk to us. Any nurses that came in and out of the room, I might be right there, but they'll say hi to her, greet her, treat her, and then leave the room. It's like, hello, you'll see me sitting over here, at least say hi. Even if it's just, hi, Dad, or hi, Mr. Rucker, or, congratulations to both of you. So there's just certain in their habit that I felt needed to be brought to their attention. And so, again, there's so many other things that I could label and list with regard to how hospitals work and function that could beg to change and improve. But again, more specifically, what helps is having a good circle of brothers and men, elders. I've even got, a nephew who beat me to fatherhood, So talking to my young fathers as well as to my not only to my peers, but the young fathers and then elders on what some of these emotions are, what some of these feelings are, what some of these patterns are, and I luckily, just from my own experience and my own personality, have learned not to take things personally. I've learned certain things that are just institutional processes and ways of doing things and ways of doing business. And that's just how people are doing things. It really is no reflection upon you, and it's not about you in any way. So just learning what other people's systems are, trying to find a way to help them do what they're trying to do, even to the best of their ability. Being an asset to the environment is what helped, as opposed to being somebody who looking like every time you're there, you're ready to pick a fight, or you're looking for something that's wrong, or looking for something that doesn't include you. No, hey, how can I help? All right, we're all here to support the mother and the baby.
Well, take us back to the moment, that first moment that you saw him at 3 pounds, 13 ounces. What was going through your heart and your mind as you saw your son there, actually in the flesh?
I think just the strength, the power, the resilience of children. We heard some really interesting stories, not only about him, so much about him, but even about other babies and other children when it comes to their capacity to fight for their own survival. He luckily was not at death's door or anything. He ended up not having any illnesses. He didn't have any setbacks in any way. He wasn't struggling to breathe. His lungs were working great. His heart was working great. Matter of fact, they were giving him, supporting him with oxygen. And like by the next day, he had already snatched those tubes out of his face. Was like, I'm good. Leave me, like, get this away from me. Get this out of my face. So again, he was already showing us and showing up. And trust me, now that he's 2, it's still very much the same. That there's even now he'll say like, get off me, get off. He just kind of, changing, and he's like, get off me, get off me. So there's this defiance about him. That showed up right away. And it's something that's very consistent in my family. So, of course, my mom and dad just laughed because they were like, yeah, we know that kid. We've seen him before. And I'm the oldest 3. And if you knew my parents, you definitely see that same spirit. So that's part of what he showed me right away was that, yeah, this is your child, right?
Yeah.
He also showed me a way that, again, like I said, the strength and power and resilience of these teeny weeny little beings is already so massive and so significant and so profound that it teaches you, again, it's like that little mustard seed idea or whatever. Even in this teeny weeny little package, there's still this might, right? This magnificence, this power that cannot be denied. And if all of us can maintain that and go back to that and remember that, I think that's a lesson. That's just one of the many lessons that our children teach it.
2018, after my second son with Amanda, my wife, was born, she immediately wanted a third. And 4 years ago, after having 2 babies 16 months apart, I was done. I didn't want any more babies because babies equal no sleep. Any parent knows that, at least for a little bit. So when she wanted children, I didn't. And for years, she just prayed and prayed and prayed till finally in 2021, I did. And we tried for a year without success. We went so far as to go to, I think, we thought about the IVF route, in vitro fertilization, and all the other things. We thought about it. So we went to the fertility clinic.
Yep.
Yeah, we went to the fertility clinic February 4th of 2022, February 4th of this year. And February 4th, they gave us a report, and it said, TJ, you got 3% chance of, going anywhere, and all your swimmers are swimming in a circle. So you don't have much of a chance for a natural birth, 3% swimming in a circle. And for my wife, she had 0% embryos that were viable for pregnancy. So, or 0% eggs that were viable for pregnancy. So, that news devastated my wife. And in the moment of her devastation, I mean, she cried for days. In that moment, tenderness, which I need to learn ever more, is where I had to find myself relating to my wife and to my two current kids. You know, I had to learn more intimacy with emotional availability, giving of myself when it's not clear what the outcome is, when it's uncertain what the next step is. But I'm going to tell you, connecting with my wife in that moment when we were uncertain and when it didn't look like a very good option for the path forward, it changed our life because flash forward March 11th. So what is that? 37 days later, we find out we're pregnant.
And I believe those things are connected. I honestly do. I believe one of the jobs of a parent is to create the environment for the child to come. And I think one of the best things that we can do are practice the things that you're talking about. And the more we practice that and the more we put the energy into, the home and into this person, this wonderful woman that we love, that we've chosen and that's chosen us, and that we're now in partnership with, right? Like in a commitment with. It's like the more you do that and sincerely, right, and from a pure place without motive and so forth, like I think that creates an energy. I believe it even does something biochemically to us all that allows the body to you know to for lack of a better word, heal itself, or
Mhm.
elicit this thing happening that may not have seemed, right, to modern medicine, or right, European medicine, that no, this isn't going to happen. Well, it reminds you that birth is a miracle. First of all, right?
Yes.
People take it for
Yes.
granted. It's supposed to always happen, right? But when you realize how many things have to go right,
Yes.
right,
Yes.
in order for the event, to happen, even the resilience of that child to say, well, all these other babies might not make it, all these other sperm ain't ready, but I'm ready. I'm here. So these kids who are here and who have shown up,
Yes.
it's not a chance. I do think it's by choice. It's by their choice. It's
Yes.
by God's vision,
Yes.
and us putting ourselves in position to say, this is what we choose to do. This is what we believe is possible no matter what. And if we do the work that's necessary to prepare, for it, prepare ourselves and prepare the environment, prepare our lives for it, um, you know, it can happen. It will happen, and
But you know, he said, my middle name is Lee, so my family would call me Lee. He would say, Lee, can't nobody be you but you. Now that's kind of a street level way of saying
yeah.
be your own man.
Hmm.
You know, um,
And you can do it. Can nobody do it for you?
what lessons did your father impart to you that you know you must impart to your son?
It's just the importance of accountability, of and with that, I think a lot of things fall under that. That's self-discipline, it's self-control, it's self-respect, it's self-love, it's and I think by doing that, um, not only are there a lot of lessons to be learned, but I believe your walk in life is you know one of the major things that I consider the walk of a true man, which is being able to stand up straight, and be in your own truth. But that's just the thing. It's the truth. Tell the truth. Accept the truth. Don't lie to people. Don't accept people's lies towards you. If somebody even, again, live in the strength and power and dignity of your name. It's connected to what you're talking, which is be you, be your own person. And if somebody tries to talk you out of that, or even call you out of that, they're not talking to you, right? So the accountability is you being accountable to yourself, to who you are, to who you know yourself to be, believe yourself to be, how you've been raised, right? People that you're accountable to, from God all the way down to your family and your ancestors, and even those children yet to be born, as right. It's about walking tall, walking straight, and standing up in it. That's the good things and the bad. Standing up in your success and not being ashamed of your achievement, but it's also standing up in your faults and your mistakes, at the same time not being ashamed of them, right? So for me, that's the kind of thing, that's the lesson. It's those types of principles that I think are highly, highly important. And to me, that's one of the major things that separates the men from the boys, because I think there's a
Absolutely.
lot of all ages, and one of the biggest signs for me of, again, my judgment of whether or not a man is worth his medal, and definitely whether he's worth my respect or will maintain my respect or admiration, or whether I would want to deal with him in any way, personally or professionally, is whether he has the strength and the power and the presence and the principle to be a man of accountability. And if he cannot, if he does not or will not, not the kind of energy or not the kind of person I feel like I could trust or would want to be around. And the same goes for women.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. You know what? When you spoke of our ancestors, I couldn't help but think about how I want to close this particular conversation. And that is by talking about Paul Robeson and what he means, who he is to us, just as brothers who admire him and fans. Paul Robeson lived his life as an artist, an activist, someone who was both an orator, a singer, and an agitator, who not only wanted a better life for himself and his wife and his son, but he demanded that life and that truth of the world, specifically the United States of America, in the moment that he lived. What would you say Paul Robeson would say to you and your son, and talk about fatherhood from that perspective?
I would hope that he would say, good job. I like what you're trying to do. I see what you're trying to do. Even if it's not about approval, I believe he would be encouraging. And I believe and I hope that he would see the good things that are being done, strong foundations, and the path that we're trying to not only lay out but empower our son to pave for himself, right? Or again, as I like to say, my job is to build the foundation, but what you build on top of that is your responsibility, you know.
Exactly.
And then, but I've got to give you a strong foundation to build that, upon. That's my duty. Otherwise, it's shaky and it's all just, fancy windows and, and facades, right? Um, so I would think he would also probably and hopefully admit to some of his own challenges and, and I'll say shortcomings as a father and husband. I think um, would be transparent about that. That was a big challenge for him. Um, and I think there are a lot of lessons to be learned and lessons to be taught by him as a result. And I would love for him to be sharing that with me. Say, hey, look here, you know, grandson, right? Great grandson. This is what I can do. I would, you know, if I could do it again, right? This is what I would do different. And that's one of the reasons why I talk about leaning to this intimacy. It's tough being men of community, right? As you and I are. It's tough being men of leadership, running companies, you know, having vision for ourselves, trying to, you know, create ideas and concepts and to, you know, creating something from the ground up that nobody else believes in but you know, nobody but us, right? That those things are very challenging. And even in spite of that, to sometimes step back and remember, like I said earlier, that all what really matters is to be there for your woman. All that matters is just being there and being present, being alert and engaged with your boys. Like that's what's going to matter. Like, yeah, can they puff their chest out later and say, yeah, my daddy did this, my daddy built this, and he was this, and he ran this, and owned this, and made this, produced this, and da da da. Yeah, but before that, what really is going to make them who they are and give them a real strong foundation of love and identity, dignity, and self worth is going to be how did their father make them feel? How did their father equip them to, you know, to be good people and to believe in themselves and love their mother and father and their brothers and to uplift and empower other people, right? And lean into, you know, their spiritual power and their relationship with things bigger and greater than themselves. Like that, those foundations are going to be more of greater sustenance and I believe more sustainable than the other things. However, again, we're businessmen. We understand that some of these things, being institution builders, are also part of this legacy, you know?
Yeah.
So who you are as a person and an individual is significant, but there are also things that you're going to inherit. There are things and legacies and institutions and companies, wealth and power and responsibility that you're also going to inherit. And you need to be prepared for that, you know, too, and equipped, you know, with that too. So, um, so this is an exciting, you know, it's an exciting time, and it will always be a delicate, you know, time because every day we love and worry about, you know, our wives and our children. At the same time, the vision that we have for them, hopefully, um, hopefully doesn't exceed the vision that they will have for themselves. You know, we always want to lift up our children, you know,
That's right.
higher than us.
That's right.
I think that's the job of every generation, you know, is that it's elevated, but that child has to do the work, you know.
Right.
So ideally, they love and respect us enough to say, my father broke his neck and sacrificed and loved me, you know, dearly, you know, and I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure that, you know, I do, um, I do him justice and do this family legacy justice by building on top of what my father built for me.
That's right.
That's what I hope and believe the duty of every child is too. So
Yeah.
I'm excited for you because you got three of them that you know drive you got three times three at least, right? And then whatever other additional exponential, you know, joy and possibility in front of you. So it's going to be really phenomenal to see what these three boys become, and what they do
Yeah.
with you and for your family. So I'm incredibly excited for you. Congratulations. Yeah.
Brother, I appreciate that. I really do.
This is your brother, Lamman Rucker, and you are watching Grit for the Day.
Grit for the day. Lived experience from influencers who overcome. With CEO and founder Thomas Lee Johnson.